Wow, a lot of superlatives in there. I'm feeling all moved and touched. Just happy to see you all and be together here today. I was just yesterday, besides reading some of this news, I just gotta name it as some of the context. We had a pretty significant loss in our Asheville community this week. I hadn't planned to talk about it, but there's a series of deaths that just very challenging. People, I don't know, make some noise. How are you doing? Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to come this morning and say, okay, we're going to be creative. We're going to talk about, and people who hadn't heard, they're just somebody killed a big group of people who are very intimately connected in our community. And so in that context, I'm just going to name some other things that I saw in the news yesterday. One of them was this village in Alaska, Kivalina. 400 people live there in this village, and it was finally decided, they're like, well, it's time, we're going to leave. We're going to abandon our town, this village, because of sea level rise and because of the changes in the Arctic. It's time to go. I'm just trying to imagine what that's like. We're going to leave Asheville. We're going to leave our homes. And what's crazy for me as a person who's working really hard not to be a jerk, and it's like, wait, I'm causing that. I'm part of that. I drove my car, and this invisible carbon dioxide came out of my tailpipe, and it's collecting in the atmosphere, and it's warming the earth, and scrambling weather patterns that's leading to sea level rise, and farmers in India. How do we live with that we are next door neighbors to people on the other side of the earth and in the future? We're the first people to really understand that. Scientifically, we've known it for 130 years, mind you, but we know it, but we don't feel it, right? We don't feel it, that we're really part of that, and yet we are. It's kind of a confusing situation to be in, just as a human being. And we're getting clues. Anyone else plant their garden a few weeks early? No, literally, my sugar snap peas, I'm putting in. Raise your hands. Sugar snap peas, I put in 2 weeks earlier than 20 years ago when I moved here. They're just ready. They're ready 2 weeks early. Remember the smell of the fires in Gatlinburg a couple of years ago? Remember that you could smell it here in Asheville, aided and supported by climate change. Hurricane Irma, Maria, Harvey. Last September, Governor Rick Scott says to 6.5 million Floridians, please leave. Yeah, go. I was leaving town that week, and I thought, well, where are these people going? Where are they going? I'm like, well, I'm just going to put my house on Airbnb. I was leaving town, I'm like, all right, no frills house for climate evacuees. And emails poured in to Asheville, North Carolina, 11 hours away from Miami. A group of 5 friends who are students in Miami spent the week in my house. We're getting the hints, but we're not feeling it. So, Professor Break, what we have here is a problem of a complex system. A complex system is where cause and effect are distant in time and space. Cause and effect are distant in time and space. We can't feel the feedback of what we're doing. There are other systems that are really different when feedback is immediate. Watch what happens over here. You might need to duck here, but if I throw this piece of paper at Brent Skidmore, watch this. I throw it at him, what's he gonna do? He's cringing, he's scared, but maybe I triggered a little bit of a response back at me. I know he's gonna come back at me. I'm like, whoa, don't mess with Brent Skidmore, right? You get feedback, and I'm like, oh, don't throw paper at Brent. See? Don't throw paper. You learn quickly. When cause and effect are distant in time and space, we don't learn. We don't know how to respond and improve our actions. It's really hard, and it's not just climate. So this week, if you just sitting here thinking about it and seeing your faces, the conflagration of domestic violence, gun accessibility, and mental illness, and the care for those who are mentally ill, and the root drivers of mental illness, that conflagration is a complex system. It's not just an immediate problem in a moment. The roots of these things get caused deep, long ago. Cause and effect distant in time and space. How do we handle these systems? This has bothered me for 30 years. For 30 years. My family's here, you guys know. I've really just this kind of problem has intrigued me. I'm going to tell you 2 stories of games that have helped solve this exact problem. Playful, competitive interventions into the world, games that help solve complex problems. And then I'm going to ask you to do more than you've ever done to take the actions that will avoid these big problems that we're seeing, because we can do it. You guys ready? Yeah. All right. 1989, I was a student at Dartmouth College. There was a barge full of trash going up and down the East Coast. Who remembers this thing? Yeah, it was big news. Not even New Jersey wanted the barge. And I'm from Cleveland. I love making that joke. So my friends and I were recycling. That's okay, but we're really talking about using less stuff. How do you use less stuff? My previous approach had been basically to judge people. Did you really need to use that paper cup? How well does that work, fellow judgers? And so I said, I've got this idea. I'm going to carry around my trash in a clear plastic bag for a week. That'll teach me something about my use of stuff I don't really need. So, beer cans, beer bottles. And then I talked to 120 of my friends and deans and the faculty at Dartmouth College to go do this as well. Paper cups, paper spoons, napkins and junk mail and pizza boxes and beer cans and beer bottles and beer cans and beer bottles. To the dorm, to the gym, to class, everywhere you went, you get this bag. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's on your back, and you're carrying it around. And the rule was, for this game, we're all going to weigh at the end of the week who's using the less, right? But the rule, don't change your behavior. Could anybody do that? Hell no. There was no way. You were a trash-avoiding machine. You're just you're going around vigilance, not because you ought to, but you had to. It was survival. We started carrying bandanas in our pockets, a metal fork. We had carabiner on our back. 89, this is before it was cool. Carabiner with a coffee mug on your back. We read the newspaper in the library. We canceled junk mail. We drank beer by the keg. It was transformational. You behaved so differently, so quickly. I've never been part of that, and I've done a lot of experiments, but I never saw behavior change click, just boom. So from there, we got the New York Times to come up, and they wrote an article about it, and the word got out a bit. And then I started getting these letters from a group of little old ladies in Connecticut at a garden club wrote me, and they're all standing there, with their bags. I was like, hey, this might be a thing. So I just wrote about it and told people about it. And then suddenly, I heard a story from Tess Vigland at Marketplace, and she did it for 2 weeks and wrote about it for a while. And then I get a letter the other direction from this guy. This guy. This guy. 30 days, baby. He was like, you did it for a week, 30 days. I'm sleeping in it. I didn't take it off for 30 days. Look at him. Huh? Do you think he learned something about consumption? Think about cause and effect, distant in time and space. In this world, there's no away, right? There's no away. There's really no away. Then a woman in LA said, well, I'm going to tell the people in schools about this. And 10,000 kids in Australia carried their trash. I just thought, wow, that is really great. It taught me a couple things. We can come up with innovative, creative interventions into the world that shift people's thinking. There's a cloud of resignation over the fate of our earth and our world and our communities and our young people. I'm gonna have trouble getting away from this story this week, and how couples get along, and families, and people. There's resignation that's hanging overhead. We can come up with creative ways to have people think differently and behave differently. We can do it. There's something also deeper here. What is really going on is that, of course, we're part of a large organism, which is Earth and our human community and the natural communities. Of course, we're connected. But when we feel those interdependencies, this network of mutuality, as King called it, it just feels good. We want to feel interdependent. We want to feel interconnected. When you carry your trash, you feel that. The Buddhists say that the illusion of separateness is the source of all our suffering. Yep, I heard a yep over here. Thank you. The illusion of separateness is the source of our suffering. If that's the case, could the experience of interdependence be the source of our joy? When we carry our trash, we're not just solving a problem. We're tapping into the interdependent nature of the world, and it just feels good. So I did this, and I thought, wow, that was really cool. And I basically spent, you might say, the next 30 years of my career trying to recreate that experience. So I thought the best shot, both to do it again, but take it up a notch, because I have a sense of the global challenge that we face. 7.6 billion people, one Earth. How to take it up a couple notches. My best shot, I was good at math, so I said, let's go study computer modeling, simulation modeling. There's a whole program at MIT Sloan in system dynamics. The purpose of it is to improve the performance of complex systems where cause and effect are distant in time and space, in all sorts of systems. So I studied this approach, founded with my team, Climate Interactive, this 10-person think tank, and working with MIT Sloan, we've created a lot of graphs, a lot of information. Ellie's here from our team, and could show graphs and show information. And the challenge, of course, with that is that we're learning that new information doesn't really change people's minds on climate. Have you noticed that? That's weird, right? You'd think, oh, information. No. But new experiences change people's minds about climate. How do we create those new experiences? And for me, how do I take this lesson about carrying our trash? Because there was something really, really powerful about that. So one day, 4 hours from here in Chapel Hill, I was teaching 50 international business school students in this class that I teach every year. And instead of showing my model and showing the graphs, I said, all right, I am Ban Ki-moon. I am the Secretary General of the United Nations. Welcome you. All of you are the delegates to the United Nations, and you're going to solve climate change. They're very international, so the folks here in the middle, I took the students from developing countries, from Africa and South America and much of Asia. They sat here right in the middle, and I said, okay, you represent the US, EU, Canada, South Korea, Japan. You are the richest nations of the world. You are 20% of the population, but you have caused 74% of all of the pollution. You are causing the problem. Oh, and by the way, here are some donuts. Pass the donuts. Have a donut. Pass it around. Pass it around. Thank you very much. Folks over here, you are about 50% of the global population. China, India, South Africa, Mexico, Indonesia. Your emissions are growing and growing over time. Your future emissions come from all you guys. No donuts. Developing world. Oh, I got a little namaste from the front row. 1 billion of you, with all due respect, live on less than $1 a day. Much of Africa, much of Asia, South America, and you're feeling the impacts of climate change, but you're really not causing it much at all. And mind you, this is a business school class. MBA students don't sit on the floor in class, so just this and the sight of the donuts, okay, We got something going on here in the room. And so, of course, if you do nothing, the global temperature is going to head 4.2 degrees, a world we cannot adapt to. You all have committed, now I'm talking to you as UN delegates now again, right? Have committed to limiting warming to no more than 2 degrees, try to get down to 1.5. Not 4.2, but below 2 degrees. And so I say, you're going to come up with pledges to solve this problem. You have 10 minutes. Imagine how that felt in that moment, 10 minutes. They confer, they talk to each other. They come up here and I give them the mic for 1 minute speeches. They make their speeches mostly about how others should take action, right? You get a lot of that. They make their speeches. They type it into this computer model, and then my finger hangs over the return button. All of the pledges are in there. It's not 4.2, but 3.5. Not enough. It helps, but not enough. And then we go to the measurement of sea level rise around the world. They've taken some action, sea level rise, and this is now a blue tarp. And this blue tarp, we sweep over all of you. Actually, I'm not going to leave the stage. George, come here a second. You're going to grab this. So George, thank you. So go back and sit down with that and put that at 1 meter over your head. Set it over your head and then pass it down the line all the way around the front row. Pass it. This is a blue tarp for sea level rise being passed at 1 meter over your head swiftly all the way down the line. Towards my mom, towards Kate, yep, all the way down. So this is out here, Indus River Valley, between Pakistan and India. And keep it coming down the line. This is, now we're over here. So in that part of the world, this is London, underwater parts of it, New York City, Amsterdam, much of Miami. This is what happened in Houston with Harvey. People underwater. People feeling the impacts of this. On down the line to you folks. Pass it all the way over your heads. This is the island nations of the Marshall Islands and Fiji and St. Lucia, Vanuatu. And if the last person there, if you keep that over your head, if you don't mind, keep that sitting there. People impacted by climate change. And the reality of impacted by climate change, migration. Migration before people are ready to leave. Migration to places where people are saying no. When migration happens that way, and this is where, everyone just take a breath with me because it's hard for me to go here. This is what's going on. Aylan Kurdi, migrating with his family before he was ready from Syria to the coast of Turkey. How do we live in the middle of this? We know it, but we don't feel it. We're feeling it right now. I'm feeling it right now. We get to feel this, that this is the nature of our world. But then we get to step into the mission of this beautiful community that you're part of. I saw that on the Mike's shirt. Bravery, action, honesty. Honesty, look at pictures like that. Don't look away. And then hard work. Bravery, action, honesty, hard work. Bravery, action, honesty, hard work. Imagine this room, these students, Chapel Hill, business school students, not really thinking about climate change. They're like, wow, what is this all about? What do you think they did next? Hard work. They're like, okay, what do we need to do? Hard work. Hard work. They're looking at those people in the front with a tarp over their heads. So in this game, they get to play with hard work and experimentation. The folks over here say, well, I didn't do much in that first round of the game, but, well, if you guys gave money, the rich countries gave money to the Green Climate Action Fund to deal with migration. You have money. Give it to this fund, the Green Climate Fund, to deal with migration and adaptation. Well, then we would actually peak our emissions in 2025, 2030. We would do something. And the folks over here said, well, we have intellectual property to wind and solar. Can we give it over to these countries over here? And the countries over here start getting busy with activism. They get pieces of paper, and they march over here, and they say, you have the money, take action now. They barred the doors. One time I'm playing the game, I say I'm Ban Ki-moon, I turn around, and my laptop is gone. Gone, like someone had stolen my laptop. I'm like, where did it go? Oh my God, someone snuck in and stole my laptop. These folks on the floor held it hostage until these folks said, no, actually we'll reduce our emissions 5% a year. Sorry about that. People get creative in a game. They play, they experiment, they try new things, they get big, they get bold, and there's more haggling and wheeling and dealing, and people are seeing how do they depend on each other. They need each other. They work together to solve this big problem. More pledges, more rounds, and then they type it into the computer again. My finger hangs over the button once again. We're not heading at 4.2, not headed at 3.5. Click down to 2 degrees, and they actually make it happen. Give those students a hand in Chapel Hill. How to take 25 years of negotiations. Now, mind you, the Paris Agreement was the 23rd round of negotiations for 23 years. Compress it in a game to about an hour to give people an experience of success. And I know I've moved you on pretty quickly from Elan Kurdi, but this is what it's going to take of the kind of range of experiences in a game at its best, right? We go deep, we go big. That's where we're trying to head. So we had this experience of, this really worked. This is really cool. What more could we do with this? People were experiencing the long-term, delayed implications of their actions in ways that actually touched them and made a difference. So we gave the model away. I made it open source. Ellie and team and others started publishing it online. Oh, geez. And we gave it away to our friends in Germany. So there's the game being played in a business school in Germany. And someone said, well, I'll translate it into German and into French, and then I'll make some more trainings to get other people to have the materials out there in the world. And then a professor, Juliet Rooney-Varga at UMass Lowell, did a study of students before and after, and found that after playing the game, 83% were more likely to take action on climate. So it started to spread some more to Indonesia, playing the game where we didn't know the people who led this. We put it on the web. We said, this is a cool game. Go try it. It's powerful. Students in Pakistan playing India. You can see it says, playing China, and that guy's with his hands, and that guy over there on the left. I don't think that's nice. But these are students. Look at those faces. Students studying the carbon cycle. Any science teachers in here know how hard it is to get people to care about the carbon cycle. Vanuatu, the island nation that is likely going to be evacuated within 10 or 20 years. Here we are in India, in West Africa. That's the computer model. That is a dirt floor where this guy is presenting the model. It spread more, 10 trainers, 20 trainers, 5 webinars, 20 webinars, 10 languages, 1,000 participants, 5,000 participants, 15. Now we're up to, in the last 2 years, 37,000 participants, 800 simulations in 74 countries, spreading virally. Games can help change the world. Give this whole thing a hand. Why does it work? Again, we're carrying our trash. We're helping people see the delayed and distant implications of their actions in a way that is meaningful, that touches hearts. If we don't touch hearts, then we're not going to be part of this movement. Touching hearts and helps people compel them to action in some powerful way. There's no away. There's no other. There's no them out there. And when we feel that, it's also just meaningful. Remember what I said about the experience of interdependence being the source of our joy? It feels good to see how these parts of the world need each other and can work together to address the biggest challenges that we face. It just feels good. So what do we do with this? What we do is we get creative, and I encourage you just for a moment to start thinking, how in my work with creativity and making and designing, can I help people see the delayed and distant implications of our actions? Can I compress time and space? Can I help people see what's going on elsewhere or in the future in a way that inspires and a way that moves? How can you do that? Lord knows, this has been part of history. This has made big change in the world. Consider how these images from Birmingham, Alabama in the 1950s shifted results in the civil rights movement. Consider how images of caskets during the Vietnam War shifted history about public support for this. These were images. These are ways to compress time and space. Something distant? No, it's right here in front of us. Consider 7,000 shoes in front of Congress to represent the 7,000 gun deaths of children since Sandy Hook. How this movement moves and inspires. Here in Asheville, just a couple weeks ago, Canyon Windward and Mattia Murkasic have this program that they brought to the Collider. Megan, you know these guys. They call it, I was like, are you kidding me? You call this Collapse the Distance? Because I was that week writing this talk. I'm saying we need to compress time and space. And they're like, oh, we're collapse the distance. I'm like, I love you guys. So that's what they're doing. They're making images of children in Vanuatu. Again, back to who are soon to be migrants moving away because they have to. This is with haunting, beautiful images. Over on the left there, you can see some sandbags that they're starting to use in order just to get through to the time before they leave. A month ago, then, Jasmine Beach Ferrara shows us these beautiful pictures to remind me of the time when images of same-sex couples getting denied marriage licenses inspired so many to see the injustice. We could have thought of that as far away. No, it's not far away. That is here. Here are the faces of people being denied these marriage licenses unjustly. Here in Asheville, about art and creativity. Who did this? I love the yarn bombs. Yeah? I love the yarn bombs. Give her a hand. Bravery, action, honesty, hard work. Talk about some hard work. There's a lot of hard work in that. What we're doing, my friends, is that we are helping people experience viscerally the delayed and distant implications of our actions around the world in this beautiful global ecosystem. Feeling it. So we don't just know it, but we feel it. What we're doing is we're using all of our creativity and all of our bravery and honesty and courage. So I ask you, in your next project, in your next effort, how can you do this? How can you help us see and feel the future? See something distant, far away. Some people say that the greatest generation, when did they live? The greatest generation, when were they? Yeah, World War II. What if we could say in the future that this was a great generation, that we were the generation who had the courage to step up to this challenge, to use design and creativity and craft and art and game to make the long-term delayed implications of our actions visceral in a way that inspires us all to immediate action. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Go get them.